National Library Sri Lanka for giving me this opportunity. And I want to verify two things. One thing, can you hear me properly?
Yeah, it's very audible.
All right, thank you. Then second one, can you see that I have shared my slide presentation?
Absolutely.
It is visible.
Thank you. Right. Then the first thing is that greetings from Sri Lanka. I see a lot of foreigners are also participating. So the topic today I am given to discuss within this 1 hour is how to identify a research problem. So my discussion today during this 1 hour, I summarize it like this. First, very briefly, I'm going to discuss what is a research problem. Then how to identify a research problem and characteristics of a good research problem. Then I'll leave, if time permits, for a very brief Q&A session. The most important thing is actually without research, we cannot conduct, without a research issue or problem, we cannot conduct a research. One problem I have seen in terminology is when we conduct research, there is a confusion in the terminology because there are research questions, there are research problems, there are research issues, and the objectives also. During my tenure as a supervisor in undergraduate and postgraduate studies, what I have experienced is that most of the undergraduate and postgraduate candidates who visit me, when I ask them, what is your research issue? Actually, the term I use is research issue. But you can substitute it as research problem as well. So then when I ask my undergraduate or postgraduate students, sometimes they tell me the topic, right? This is what we are going to do. Then I say, no, I want the research issue or the problem according to today's discussion. Then they think and tell me the objective, right? Then I say, no, that is also not the thing I want. I want your research issue or the problem. So hereafter I'll say problem. So then, but I prefer the term research issue. Then after that, they tell me a hypothesis, right? Then what I understand is most of the Sri Lankan, because I don't have foreign students supervision experience with me at the moment, I have taught them, but not this is supervision. So what I understand is that the whatever the discipline that they come in, the undergraduate or postgraduate researchers, they don't have a very good understanding about what is research problem, what are research objectives, what are research questions, and what is a hypothesis like. So those who are here in this session, hereafter, please do study the differences among these terms. Because this terminology, when the students present their research proposals, so sometimes at conferences also, I see that there's a huge confusion among these terms. Therefore, first is research issue or the problem, and then title, and then research questions, then objectives and hypothesis. So if you are thinking of conducting a research now or in future, the point of start, that means from where you should begin, is the research problem. So therefore, today's session that is organized by the National Library of Sri Lanka is very important for the young research community and even the experienced research community to reflect back on how you have been doing and what positives were there, and if there were certain shortcomings or weaknesses, you can improve. So in this first thing, what we are going to say, what is a research problem or research issue? When you try to explain the problem, mostly I am reading so many documents, research papers, books, and everything. There is a controversy again, how to write this research problem. Normally, you write it in the problem statement mode, whether it is a positive statement or negative statement, as in a kind of a negative or sorry, a question form. But I consider research problem means something that is there in the society. Now, suppose say these days in Sri Lanka or throughout the world, uh, people are actually talking about global warming. Now, global warming is a kind of a research area, right? It is not a research problem. Research problem is if global warming is affecting human lives in your country, particular area, if the climate, the atmosphere that you are experiencing is very unfavorable to human life, that could be a problem. So, as given in this slide, it's a statement. Research problem is a statement about an area of concern. That means at the moment, at least individual or a group of people or the entire society is suffering from some critical situation. So, statement about an area of concern or a condition to be improved. Suppose like unemployment, malnutrition, domestic violence, then hate speech like. So these are certain conditions that are actually not very positive for our society, for the people and everybody. So therefore, it's a problem. It's a problem is that a condition to be improved. Or sometimes it's a difficulty to be eliminated. Sometimes there are certain difficult situations, like say in our society, if we take right the unemployment again, right? Because people don't have. Then Sri Lankan or any other countries not having foreign direct investment. So therefore, sometimes public debt, the increase of public debt, like so you can conduct research based on those research problems as well, right? Or sometimes if you are going for a document analysis, textual analysis, or literature survey, systematic literature review, or whatever, then a troubling question that exists in scholarly literature, theory, or in practice that points to the need for meaningful understanding and deliberate investigation. So when summarizing, what the research problem is, research problem can be a kind of a concern, that means so a kind of a condition or a kind of negative, something affecting badly for the society, community, individual, so that we have to find an answer to that. That is the first and foremost point that I want to highlight when you're thinking of a research problem. Then nowadays, actually, since AI is there and a lot of technical support is there, like internet, most of the students do not ask this question. But when I was a student so many years back, and even say 5 years back, like the biggest problem was how to identify a research problem. This is a very serious issue for most of the candidates or the students who are in our undergraduate and postgraduate research. So now, how to identify a problem? Now that is again a very serious concern. How to identify this problem? Just a second. So, right. First one is right. The top heading you might not see, but don't worry. It is identification process, research problem identification process. So don't worry. Then the first and foremost thing is actually identify a field or area of interest. And don't have the habit of asking somebody else what you should research. Most of the students, actually, when they come to do their research or say preliminary meetings or discussions with me or most of the other lecturers, there's a particular habit that the lecturer or the supervisor is actually, if the topic is not to the interest of the supervisor or lecturer, he is trying to change it. Now, this is a very unethical, bad practice, because now if I go with the topic, because it has happened to me, if I go with the kind of a topic, or those days actually I also went with the research topic because I didn't know most of these things. So when I go, because the supervisor or the lecturer is suggesting, no, you do this, like. So then what happens? The student is in a kind of a dilemma, because he has the problem. Now his mind is conditioned to a specific research issue or topic or problem. Now the supervisor is suggesting something totally different, because which actually the supervisor can supervise. So therefore, what I consider is here supervisors have to be very serious about their job role, because if the student comes with the kind of a research issue, question or topic, the supervisor has to start questioning. Then what would happen? Little by little, the candidate would understand what are his problems. Because sometimes when the students come to me and say, I have this interest, then when I ask certain questions, I know that they don't have a very good understanding about that. So what we have to do is, as supervisors, as senior academics, we have to make them start thinking about their topic. So the best is to, according to this, identify a field or area of interest. Now, this is very important. If you are doing political science, you should not select, say, construction industry. But there is a politics in construction industry as well, right? If you are doing social media, you should not select fisheries industry. So likewise, according to your research interest, now most of the students, when they come, or we have preliminary discussions, what I would say is that, what is the most, the subject that you like most during your special degree program? Because you have to identify a particular field of interest or area of interest, because when you do research means the next few years, if you are doing undergraduate, sometimes one semester, so nearly 6 months. If you are doing postgraduate masters, nearly 2 years, first year, taught masters, the taught modules, and the second year research, full 1 year research, MPhil 2 years research, and PhD 3 years research. So now you have to live with your research. So you can't live with something that you don't have an interest. You don't love it. So therefore, first thing, you have to select a research problem or a research issue or a main research question from a field that you have an interest, right? So if you are doing marketing, so if you are doing human resource management, if you are in the banking sector, you have to think of the field or area of interest. Second, now when you get a kind of area of interest, that would be very broader. That means you can't research it. Now, say for example, I'll take this Sri Lankan example. The foreigners, those who are present here, please don't get upset, even if it's applied to your country. Say unemployment in Sri Lanka, unemployment in Japan, unemployment in India, unemployment in Nigeria. Now, this is extremely broad. You can't. So the second point we call is the formulation. Formulation is you bring it down to a researchable level, because research actually most of the candidates think, right, when they do very descriptive narrative the presentation on a broader area, that is research. No, research is actually from a broader area or industry or some element that you are selecting a very simple, very micro level, and then do an in-depth study, right? That is the most important thing. So the second is formulation. That means you narrow down the focus and bring it down to a researchable level, right? Then the third one is somewhat controversial for me, because I do not allow my students to develop the topic. Because the thing is, sometimes the students start with the topic. This is such a bad practice, because it is like that you will become a prisoner of that. What I say is, my advice, personal advice is, right, based on my experiences, first think of a research issue, problem, or the main research question. Then do a kind of a very preliminary literature survey, right? And then have a kind of a tentative title, but don't make it final. Have a tentative title. Because when you do preliminary literature survey, you are going to see what kind of literature is available, what kind of research questions have been studied, what objectives the other researchers have formulated, and then what kind of data collection methods they have used, what kind of findings are there, what kind of failures had been there, what were the further research, future research that they have suggested. Like you can have a lot, a basic knowledge, background knowledge about that. Then based all these things, you have to select your actual research papers on which that you are going to base your study. Say at the preliminary level, you might read, say, 50 to 60 odd articles, journal articles, books, and everything. And then after that, you select the best 25, because what I see is some articles, sometimes normally our social science articles are 16 A4 pages in journal, 16 A4 pages. Then what we find is sometimes only one or two sentences. So that kind of an article is not worth reading through. So therefore, first, when you do the preliminary literature survey, you just select what you are going to do with that. Then you do the exact, very in-depth literature review. Now, first is the literature survey. Now you do the literature review. When you do the literature review, after that you can finalize your tentative title. So until such time, don't get into that. So I don't know whether you would practice, but these things time consuming. You have to exert a lot of energy. You need a lot of memory power. You need a lot of retention power, and then critical thinking and problem solving skills to do this. Then fourth one, raise research questions. Now, based on, now since you have a very good understanding about your research problem, now you raise research questions. What I ask my student is to write down all the research questions that come into their mind. Sometimes at the very initial stage, you might write 50 to 60 odd research questions. It's okay. Don't consider that it's a waste of time. You write it. That means then you are unlocking all the areas that you are really interested in. But then this is the time where you should develop your research focus. Even though you have noted down 50, 60 odd research questions, in a research, you can't study all these. Now the best time is to narrow down and narrow the focus of your research and select, this is the one I am going to study, right? Then even though you raise so many research questions, now the time to limit the research questions to a minimum so that your research has a greater focus. Then you can formulate your objectives. Here again, I would talk about aim and objectives. Aim is like the umbrella term for the research, aim. And then under aim, how to achieve those the objectives of the research. We are talking about specific objectives. So you have the greater aim that covers the entire research. And then this aim should be subdivided into three or specific objectives, so that it's like you are going on a staircase, like going from the first specific objective, then you go to the second, and finally you go to the three. Even some postgraduate studies also, I have seen 14 objectives. 14 objectives, don't get into that. One aim, and under that aim, interconnected and very logically constructed, three specific objectives are more than enough, even if it's a 100,000 word PhD thesis, right? Then the other thing I want to highlight is how you write objectives. Because when you write objectives, right, you have to use very strong action verbs. Use strong action verbs, right? Now, what are these action verbs, right? You have to use very good taxonomy, for example, like Bloom's taxonomy, and omit the first column where we have the very basic action verbs, and then you have to go for very strong action verbs, right, to write your objectives. I'm very serious and very critical about the action verbs of these objectives. But you have to formulate objectives. That means objectives show the direction or the orientation of your research, how you are progressing and to where you are heading. Then the sixth one is evaluate the objectives. This is like a kind of a checklist, like where you have to reflect on what you have been doing, because from identifying a field or area of interest to evaluate the objectives, like it might take some long time. You can't do just within 1 second or 1 hour or anything. Because I said at the very beginning, research is you have to live in it. You have to live with it, right? Because that living with research, living in research is very important, because that kind of integration is extremely important. So you evaluate the objectives, have a kind of your own checklist, or sometimes in the internet, there are certain checklists are available to evaluate your research problem or objectives, research questions. Then you can get the support of these things. And finally, you have to do a kind of re-evaluation, mainly with the expert opinion, maybe your supervisor, your senior professor, expert opinion, somebody expert in the field of area that you are interested in. And then sometimes peer review, your colleague or somebody can help you how to evaluate this. Then I'm interested in talking about characteristics of a good research problem. Now, you may develop a very strong research question, or sometimes a research question or the problem, the issue in a kind of a moderate level, or sometimes it may be weak. But anyway, it's okay, right? Even if it is weak, don't worry about it, because research for me is a learning process, because still I'm learning from my students. I'm learning by reading a lot of other research written by so many people around the world. So therefore, I'm extremely happy with those researchers because they are improving my knowledge, skills, and my perspectives. So therefore, I'm really interested in reading other researchers. So based on all these things, what are the very good characteristics of very prominent characteristics of a good research problem? The first is kind of significance. Now, when you say significance, even when you write a research proposal, or when you present a research, or when you write a kind of a thesis, dissertation, or article, you write significance of the research or research problem. Now, significance can have so many things, but those significances should be scientific. Mostly they may have personal significance, right? That means sometimes now really I'm interested in I'm doing. That is a personal significance. But you have to think that well, the very moment that you are going to do academic research, all of you are who have joined here, you are academic researchers. You are not doing research for your personal pleasures, but even if it is, no problem. So more than personal significance, the significance should be right to the first thing to the community, right? There are different types of significances. Significance to the community, because you are collecting data from the community, then you are interviewing people from the community, you are observing people who are there, whether you are using what type of data collection you're taking from the people, their opinion, their attitudes, values, perspectives, everything. So therefore, you have a very strong uh, accountability and uh, responsibility to give back the community uh, for what they have given. So therefore, it is very significant. Then there could be another significance from the disciplinary perspective. Suppose you are a library science professional. So when you do a research, when you study a research problem, it should enlighten library science, because the people who read it, general reader, library science undergraduate, postgraduate, or expertise, they also should get something. So there should be a disciplinary level significance of your research. That is very important. Sometimes your researches might lead to policy formulation. Say, for example, like library science in Sri Lanka has has come a long way, and another journey to go with the development of technology and everything. So if you are library science professionals and if you are representing any other discipline, whatever disciplinary perspective plus policy formulation. Sometimes because of your research in relation to how Sri Lankan libraries can cater to the needs and wants of the, say, the otherwise abled readers, right, or library users, then that is a significant milestone, even sometimes policy formulation of the country. So therefore, significance is one of the prominent aspects of your research, right? Then sometimes economically may be significant, politically, socially, culturally, right? Environmentally, there may be so many significances. Then the next prominent characteristic or feature is researchable, right? Now, even when I began research also, I have planned or designed or thought of so many researchers. But most of these researchers I could not complete because I thought it's the problem of the research respondents or society or something. But actually, later I learned that the problem lies with me, because when I plan or when I say design, when we design a research, we have to think of its researchability. Whether how much we can do this, whether we can do this, whether we can complete this, right? Whether we can complete this. So there may be so many obstacles in society, in the field, because lack of research subculture in the society. Likewise, there could be so many barriers that you have to overcome. So therefore, researchability from the very beginning. Sometimes when the students come to me, even yesterday I had a very PhD supervision. Then I asked, the topic was superb. Then I asked how you are going to collect data. Then against my thinking, the candidate was so smart that candidate defended and justified how he is going to collect data. So I was so impressed. Why? Because now he has a very good plan how to carry out this, how to conduct this, because sometimes you have a very high sounding, very high quality research topic or research problem. But when you're going to collect data, if you can't collect data, the sophisticated nature of that research problem is useless. So therefore, the second one, what I would like to comment is researchability. And the third is novelty. Third is novelty because we always say, actually some of the students don't like when we say, when you do literature review, always go to the last 5 years of publications. Then students always say or comment that, sir, last 5 years, it's very difficult to find. So sometimes we extend the period up to last 10 years. But the problem is actually novelty, because so many students, undergraduates, because of their lack of knowledge, when they present their research, they always say the first research, the first research, or the nature of this kind of research, the nature of this research is the worst one. But actually, that shows how immature and how poor your literature survey is. Because nowadays, you can't find out something new very rarely, right? You can't find it. It's very difficult. So very rarely you find something that nobody has done, especially in social sciences, right? Because so many researches are being conducted even at this moment throughout the world. Say if you take library science, I can't tell you an exact number, or even guessing is, I don't think it's ethical, but a large number of, even unimaginable, right? Researches are going on at the moment. So then what would happen, right? We have to do something new. That is why we have a kind of an understanding, so kind of an unwritten rule, like go through the last 5 to 10 years of articles, books published, because then you know what the others have done, what researchers had been conducted during last 10 years. So you should not repeat. But there is an exception to the rule. You can replicate in the sense, say, the research conducted 5 years back, you can repeat it the same way. Identical sample, identical geographical location, identical, the same research method, same questionnaire, I can do a kind of a comparative study for, say, 5 years back, 10 years back, like, or after 5-10 years, you can do the same research. That is called replication. But other than that, we think of novelty. Mostly novelty is achieved through research gaps, right? Different types of research gaps. There are 9 types of research gaps. Then suitability. Now this is again controversial, and this is very important, because suitable. Because as I said earlier, right, if you are a researcher in international relations, if you are a researcher in history, if you are a researcher in library science, how much you're suitable for that, right? because say now I'm actually doing sociology. But if I'm going to do data science, nanoscience, or artificial intelligence, there are certain or major restrictions because I'm not suitable to do that. And if you are in the field of medicine, there's no harm that you can research on music, the healing power of music. So you are combining, integrating medicine and music. Those things are permitted, allowed, and those things can be done. Those multidisciplinary or transdisciplinary research are acceptable. But normally, there are so many incongruities, like say, sociology, but I'm going to do about nanotechnology, right? There is a certain sociology in nanotechnology as well. But here, it is straight away, it is not suitable. So therefore, uh, the fourth one is suitability. And then the most important last two, ethical considerations, right? Because especially when you deal with humans, there could be a lot of ethical violations. Sometimes from selecting the sample, conducting interview, right, and even observation, whatever it is, right, some data collection methods, we have to be very careful because we are working with humans, and some people might get hurt by asking certain questions in interviews, right? So sometimes observation may not be to the liking of some of the respondents in the target group. Even sometimes you are not present, but in a hard copy or emailed questionnaire, the wording of some of your questions might hurt the sentiments of the respondents. So therefore, ethical considerations are very important. Even handling underage children, right? Then victims, marginalized people, uh, then uh, respondents with psychological illnesses, and there are so many other respondents who are having so many, say, disadvantaged natures that they are experiencing in the society. We have to be very careful when we conduct research. So ethical considerations is also very important when you're thinking of a research problem. And then final one, this is not compulsory but optional because of your research, right? Because of your research, if the findings or even your research issue, if it will lead to some other research, that would be a very good research problem. Because normally when you read the end of the research paper, proposal or whatever, we will see sometimes project reports that there is further research or future research. But in Sri Lanka, again, I don't know about other countries, mostly they write this after recommendations in the concluding para as a formality. But that is not very serious because when we read dissertations, we see that future research is not that strong. But if you read very standard and uh, very strongly peer-reviewed articles in the international arena, you will see that suggestions for further research or future research, that also should be a very good characteristic of a research problem. So then that is the end, and I used mostly in English because I saw in the participants crowd there were so many foreigners and non-Sinhala participants. So that is why I straight away linked it to English. Udita, do I have to do a kind of a Sinhala summary version?
Yes, I think it's better for the Sinhala speakers.
Right. Okay. Right. So please,
Also, there's one
yeah.
of question that raised from the chat box.
Sorry.
Yeah, it is. There is one of
Uh-huh.
question that raised from one of participants
Uh-huh.
asking from is there any limit of specific research questions for a
Uh-huh.
research, especially
Uh-huh.
a master research?
Master's research. All right. Okay.
Yeah,
The
is there any limit of specific research questions for a research,
uh-huh.
especially a master research?
Actually, the thing is this. Now, I will tell you about my format. I don't know about your university or institution or supervisor's format. Normally, what you do, if that participant is there, he or she can take down. First thing, you have to decide your research issue, right? First, you have to decide your research issue. Then, you have to think of your objectives. You have to think of your objectives. Then to realize those objectives, you have to formulate research questions, right? I'll tell it in Sinhala. Then මේ පර්යේෂණය කරද්දී ලංකාවේ ඉන්න ගොඩාක් අය කරන ලොකුම වැරැද්දක් තමයි මේ ටයිටල් එක මාතෘකාවක් අරන් එන එක. ඕක කරන්න එපා. ඕක අන්තිම වැරදි වැඩක්. හැබැයි අදටත් සහ ඉදිරියටත් ලංකාවේ විශ්වවිද්‍යාලවල උසස් අධ්‍යාපන ආයතනවල කරන්නේ ඕක. ඒක කරන්න එපා. මාතෘකාවකින් පටන් ගන්න එපා. පර්යේෂණ ගැටලුවකින් පටන් ගන්න. ඒ පර්යේෂණ ගැටලුව තමයි වැදගත් වෙන්නේ. ඒ ගැටලුවටනේ අපි මේ උත්තර හොයන්න යන්නේ. ඒ නිසා මේ පර්යේෂණ ගැටලුවක් ගත්තාම ගැටලුව කියන දැන් උදාහරණයක් විදිහට දැන් මේ දවස්වල අපි නිකන් හිතමුකෝ මොකක් හරි මේ තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නයක් අපි හිතමු මේ ඝාතන රැල්ල. හිතමුකෝ මේක දැන් ලොකු ඉෂුව එකක් නේ. එතකොට දැන් මේ ඝාතන රැල්ලත් එක්ක අපි හොයා ගන්නවා දැන් මේ ඝාතන රැල්ල කොහම ලොකු හරි පුළුල් පරාසයක් තියෙනවා. මේකේ අපි හොයා ගන්න ඕනේ ඊටාම සුළු කොටසක් මේක. මම හිතන්නේ මම මේ ස්ලයිඩ් එක පෙන්නුවා. මේ ඊටාම සුළු කොටසක්. මෙන්න මේ 1යි 2යි. මෙන්න මේ දෙක. අපි ඊටාම පොඩි ශාස්ත්‍රයකට ලඝු කර ගන්නවා. ලඝු කරගෙන අපි පොඩි මූලික සාහිත්‍ය ගවේෂණයක් කරනවා. අපි ඒකට කිව්වේ preliminary literature survey කියලානේ මම කිව්වේ. preliminary literature survey කියන්නේ මූලික සාහිත්‍ය සමීක්ෂණයක් කරනවා. කරලා බලනවා මේ ඝාතන රැල්ල කියන්නේ කොහොමද මේ ඝාතන කොයි වගේ අයද කරන්නේ. බුද්ධහම කියලා ඉවර කළා තමයි අපි මෙන්න මේ දේ තමයි මම ස්ටඩි කරන්න කියන තැනට අපි එන්නේ. අන්නේ ආවහම අපි අපේ ඉෂුව එක හරියටම හදාගන්න. අපේ පර්යේෂණ ගැටලුව එහෙම නැත්නම් පර්යේෂණ ප්‍රශ්නේ හරියට හදාගන්න. ඊට පස්සේ තමයි අපි අපේ ඔබ්ජෙක්ටිව්ස් එහෙම නැත්නම් පරමාර්ථ අපි මේකට ගොඩනගා ගන්න. එතකොට මේ පරමාර්ථ ගොඩනගනකොට මේ පරමාර්ථ වලට පිළිතුරු හොයන්න අන්න අපි research questions පර්යේෂණ ප්‍රශ්න අහන. පර්යේෂණ ප්‍රශ්න අහන. මම ඕන ඒකටත් මේකට තව ස්ලයිඩ් දෙකක් විතර දාලා මම ෂෙයා කරන්න එකක් හදලා දෙන්න. මේ මොකද මම ඒක ගැන එච්චර හිතුවේ නැහැ කියලා. නමුත් පර්යේෂණ ප්‍රශ්න අහන්නේ එහෙමයි. දැන් හැබැයි අර මම මුලින් කිව්වේ අර පර්යේෂණ ප්‍රශ්න ගොඩක් ලියන්න කියලා. මම කිව්වේ එහම ලිව්වහම සමහරලාට බොහෝ දුරට පර්යේෂණ ප්‍රශ්න 4ක් 5ක් තමයි උපරිම යා යුතුයි කියලා මම කියන්නේ. මොකද ඔය ඕනට වැඩිය ගොඩාක් ඇහුවම දැන් අනිත් එක තමයි මේක මම ස්පෙસિෆිකලි මම මේක විශේෂයෙන් කියන්න ඕනේ. මේ පර්යේෂණ මම කරනකොට තියරිස් මේ න්‍යායන් කියනකොට දැන් ඊයේ පෙරේද මම කිව්ව එක PhD thesis එක න්‍යායන් 14ක් තියෙනවා. තව එක න්‍යායන් 32ක් තියෙනවා. දැන් ළමයි හිතනවා මේ න්‍යායන් දන්නවා කියලා කිව්වම මේක හරි හොඳයි කියලා නෑ. එහෙම නෑ. ඕනම පර්යේෂණයක් කරනකොට එකම එක න්‍යායක් තෝරගන්න. ඒ න්‍යාය හැබැයි හැම පැත්තෙම මේ පර්යේෂණයට සුදුසු වෙනවා. ඒ පර්යේෂණ ප්‍රශ්නත් එහෙමයි. ඒ අහපු කවුරු හෝ අපේ සම්බන්ධ වෙන ඒ කවුරු හරි ලියා ගන්න. පළවෙනියටම ඔබ ගොඩනගා ගන්න ඕන පර්යේෂණ ප්‍රශ්නේ. ඒ කියන්නේ මේ ගැටලුව. මොකක් හරි පර්යේෂණ ගැටලුව හොයන්න. ඊට පස්සේ මූලික සාහිත්‍ය සමීක්ෂණයක් කරන්න. මූලික සාහිත්‍ය සමීක්ෂණයක් කළා මොකද්ද මේක බලන්න. අන්න ඊට පස්සේ අර පර්යේෂණ ප්‍රශ්නය මුලින් ගොඩනගපු එක දැන් වෙනස් වෙනවා. වෙනස් වෙන්න ඕනේ. අපේ අය කරන්නේ එහෙමනේ ඒක වෙනස් වෙන්නේ නැතුව ඒක තියාගෙන Tamanට ඕන විදිහට පර්යේෂණ මේ මොකක්ද සාහිත්‍ය ගවේෂණය කරන එක කරන්න කරලා ඉවරනම අරක වෙනස් කරන්න. මොකද නැත්තම් මේක කරන්න බෑ. ඊට පස්සේ වෙන්නේ දැන් ඔබ ගොඩනගන්න පරමාර්ථ. අන්නේ පර්යේෂණ පරමාර්ථ දැන් අපි තුමු පළවෙනි එක මෙහෙම කොහොමද මේක අපි හිතමු මේ ඝාතන කියනවා අපි contract killing කියලා කියනවා. එහෙම නැත්නම් organized crime කියනවා. සංවිධානාත්මක අපරාධ කියන. ඒකට සංවිධානාත්මක අපරාධයක් කියන කුමක්ද? ඒ කියන්නේ අපේ පළවෙනි නිර්වචනය තමයි පළවෙනි ඔබ්ජෙක්ටිව් එක තමයි මේ සංවිධානාත්මක අපරාධ ලංකාවේ සමාජය තුළ මෙහෙම ස්ථාපිත වෙන්න හේතු අපි අධ්‍යයනය කරනවා. එහෙනම් සංවිධානාත්මක අපරාධ කියන්නේ මොනවද? සංවිධානාත්මක අපරාධවල ආරම්භය සහ වර්ධනය කෙබඳුද කියලා අන්න එහෙම ප්‍රශ්න ලියා ගන්නවා. එතකොට අපි අර ඔබ්ජෙක්ටිව් එක මේට පිළිතුරු දෙන්න තමයි පර්යේෂණ ප්‍රශ්න හදන්නේ. එතකොට ඔබ්ජෙක්ටිව් එක ඉස්සරහෙන් තමයි පර්යේෂණ ප්‍රශ්න ගොඩ නැගෙන්නේ. ඉතින් එතකොට එතෙන්දී පර්යේෂණ ප්‍රශ්න 10ක් 15ක් එකක් යටතේ ලිව්වට කමන්නේ. හැබැයි ওই 10 15ම අපිට අධ්‍යයනය කරන්න බෑනේ. එතකොට අපි කරන්න ඕනේ අපිට වඩාත්ම ගැළපෙන දෙකක් වගේ තියක් තමයි. ගොඩක් පර්යේෂණ ප්‍රශ්න ගොඩක් ඔබ්ජෙක්ටිව්ස් මේ පරමාර්ථ අරමුණු ගොඩනගන්න එපා. ගොඩක් න්‍යායවන් මේවා කරන්න එපා. ඒක පර්යේෂණයට ලොකු බාධාවක්. And those who have been joining from overseas, and what I highlighted extra point was the use of theories in research. This is not mainly related to how to identify a research problem, because I have seen that students or candidates are including so many theories in their thesis or dissertation. Don't do that. You have to select one theory. You have to select only one theory. There may be so many theories, but for your study, there should be one and all very strong theory, right? So for that theory, right, you have to justify why you select that theory and how it is related to your study life, right? Is the research? Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Now-
sir, for your
now-
explanation.
So can I draw your attention, please? I mean,
Yeah.
I would like to ask one question. Exactly, when we are in the process of preparation of any kind of researcher, sir, the research problem, as you said earlier, it is very important.
Hmm.
Then at the same time, you said that number of questions before we write, before we start our research, we have to, I mean, jot down in a papers,
Yeah.
many related to the topic that we have chosen.
Yeah.
Now, is it possible to insert almost all the question in the research paper itself? Or
No,
we
no.
need to identify at least one or two questions which is very applicable to which will enable us to respond to the research work that we are going to do.
Yeah, that is, I think I said it, because even though how many you have jotted down, because you sometimes some of these questions might later help you to do some other research.
Okay then. Okay.
You understand now? When I
Yeah.
normally I am traveling. When I am traveling, I have a notebook.
Yeah.
Whatever comes into my mind, I take down in that notebook.
Yeah.
Because usually later I forget it.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
That is-
Okay. Thank you, sir. It is very useful.
Yeah. And Mohan share presentation. Any other questions? There are so many, like breaking up due to weak internet signals.
Dr. Ekande?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Ekande, there is a question in the chat also asking about ethical, something related to that. I just saw it. They are in the, let me see.
Yeah. Okay. I will answer one by one. Is time permit for me, Udita?
Sir, you can.
Yeah. Now, Shaswin is
Explain the procedure for taking ethical clearance for a research.
right.
That
Okay.
there is a
Okay.
question from a participant.
Okay, madam. I'll answer. There are 23 messages coming. What is the difference between general objective and specific objectives? Yeah. General objective is the aim. General objective is the aim. Aim is the entire the research coverage. Aim. That means what you are going to find out at the end. Specific objective is the how the general objective is broken down into interconnected and logical parts. That is the difference between general objective and specific objective. What I would do is I would add that slide into this and then try to include that also, because there are 2 more slides. I think I have to add that. I'll do it. Then how to affect electricity price increases on household electricity consumption. So is it good research problem? This is, when you say how to, this is a research question. This is not a research problem. Research problem is because of the, or due to the increase of electricity prices, the household electricity consumption is dying down. But that is natural, because when the prices increase, demand goes down. That is in economics, demand supply theory, the relationship, no problem. But Shahnaaz, the problem here is how that increasing, right? So that the research problem is the increase of electricity bills, right? Electricity bills, how that affect or how that impact on the children's education. That could be a good research issue. Now, this is effect electricity price increases on household electricity consumption is that is very natural. That is, everybody knows that. It is natural. I hope I have understood. Right. Then, why? Can I get the mobile number of Dr. Upul as there are internet problems recording of it, please? Okay, good. I think, don't know whether it is my problem. Right. Mostly in emails are there. Is the research problem essential when conducting research? Yes, because research problem is the center of everything. Without research problem, you can't do anything. It is very, very important. We will upload the webinar recording in channel, right? Please send me the recording. Mostly they are asking, yeah, recording. Kindly explain the procedure for taking ethical clearance for research. All right. Now, normally in Sri Lanka, still I am also studying this. If you want to do a kind of ethical clearance, National Science Foundation, if you are doing as a freelance, National Science Foundation, they have ethical committee, right? You can apply and get it. And universities, if you are attached to a kind of a universities, you can get that. From that, each and every university, there are ethical clearance committees. And then if you are studying in a foreign university affiliated courses in Sri Lanka, those foreign universities, they have their ethical procedures. So you can apply through that institute that is there. Mostly these things are there, right?
Dr. Lekamge,
Yeah.
Dr. Lekamge, the
Yeah.
National Library also recently initiated that kind of a, the platform for people to request their ethical clearance. Then we have a committee, and then we will see their proposals and give the ethical clearance. So for library and information science field, anyone can check with Udita or Nimi to get the details for obtaining ethical clearance from the National Library.
Yeah, and there is
mostly for the library and library science research.
Yeah, library science research. Yeah. Yeah, then what is the difference between dissertation and abstract? There is another one. Actually, dissertation is the whole work that the presenting, the whole work that you have done. Dissertation. Abstract is the summary of what you have done. Right? Abstract, you have to write at the end of your study. Abstract, most people, they write the abstract at the very beginning. Abstract මගේ ළමයි ගොඩකට මම කියන දේ තමයි chapter introduction එක. දැන් when you do a research, you have chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a research, right? Every chapter you have an introduction, but write the introductory part, say 1.1, 2.1, 3.1, 4.1, 5.1 after writing the other parts of the chapter. ඒක හොඳට මතක තියාගන්න. chapters තියෙනවා 5ක්. සාමාන්‍ය අපි research එකක් කරනකොට. chapter 1 introduction හැඳින්වීම, chapter 2 literature review සාහිත්‍ය ගවේෂණය, chapter 3 research methodology පර්යේෂණ ක්‍රමවේදය, chapter 4 discussion and analysis සාකච්ඡාව සහ විග්‍රහය, chapter 5 conclusion. දැන් මේ හැම එකක්ම ලියනකොට chapter එකේ පළවෙනි එක 1.1 නම් introduction, 2.1 introduction, 3.1 introduction. දැන් ඕගොල්ලෝ මේක ඉස්සෙල්ලා ලියන්න එපා. right? ඉස්සෙල්ලාම ලියන්න chapter එකේ ඉතුරු ටික. දැන් literature review එකේ ඊළඟ ටික ලියන්න. ලියලා ඒ ඔක්කොම summary එක ලියන්න පළවෙනිට. නැත්නම් මම introduction එක කියවලා ඉතුරු ටික කියනකොට මේ දෙකේ කිසිම relevance එකක් නැහැ. මේ දෙක දෙකක්. එහෙම කරන්න එපා. මේවා ඉගෙන ගන්නකොට හරියටම ඉගෙන ගන්න. දැන් අපිත් ඔය පටන් ගන්නකොට දැනන් හිටියේ නෑ. When I started I also didn't know. Even now I never tell you that I know everything. I'm still studying. I like this kind of workshops because I can share my knowledge with you. I want to share what I have found out. Right. Then a lot of emails are there. That is that okay. I thought there are questions. Okay, what are the impacts of different purposes of smartphone use on academic performance in school children, and what are the perception of parents and teachers? Good research problem. දැන් මෙතන පුතා තියෙන research problem එකක් නෙමෙයි. මෙතන තියෙන research question දෙකක් තියෙනවා. පළවෙනි එක තමයි what are the impacts of different purposes of smartphone use on academic performance in school children. ඒක පළවෙනි එක. ඊළඟ what are the perception of parents and teachers about this impact. එතකොට දැන් ඔයාලට මෙතන පරිශන දෙකක් කරන්න පුළුවන්. මොකද මෙතන පරිශන ප්‍රශ්න දෙකක් තියෙනවා. පළවෙනි එක තමයි ඔයාගේ පරිශන ප්‍රශ්නයක් නම් ඔයා කියන්නේ මේ සුහුරු ජංගම දුරකථන භාවිතය නැත්නම් use of smartphone එක මේ අධ්‍යාපන කාර්ය සාධනයට බලපාන. ඒක තමයි පළවෙනි රිසර්ච් ඉෂුව එක. දෙවෙනි එක තමයි දෙමව්පියන් සහ ගුරුවරුන් මම මේක රිසර්ච් දෙකකට කඩනවා නම් කැමතියි. මොකද දෙමව්පියෝ කොහොම ලොකු කොහොට් එකක්, teachers is another big cohort. එතකොට how the perception of parents and teachers ඔයාලට කියන්න පුළුවන් දෙමව්පියන්ගේ මේ perception එක කියන්නේ සංජානනය. දෙමාපියන්ගේ මේ පාසල් දරුවන් සුහු ජංගම දුරකථන භාවිතය පිළිබඳ දෙමාපියන්ගේ සංජානනයේ තරම් යහපත් නැහැ. අයහපත්. එහෙමත් නැත්නම් ඒක එච්චර ධනාත්මක නැහැ. නිෂේධනීය. ඔන්න ඕක තමයි රිසර්ච් ඉෂුව එක. රිසර්ච් ඉෂුව එක කියන්නේ බොහෝ දුරට මගේ පැත්තෙන් නම් positive statement. Research issue or problem is a positive statement. මෙතන තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නයක් තමයි මේ අපි කතා කරන්නේ. ඒක ගැන මේ කිසිම ගැටලුවක් නැහැ. මේ රිසර්ච් දෙකම හොඳයි මීඩියා පැත්තෙන්. මේ හැබැයි මේව හරියටම හදාගන්න. right? මේවා මේ ටිකක් මහන්සි වෙන්න මේව හදාගන්න පුළුවන්. alright. What is the difference between executive summary and the abstract? Abstract එකක් වුවොත් වචන 250යි 300ක වගේ ලියන්නේ. Extended abstract එකක් වුවොත් නම් වචන 1500කින් විතර ලියනවා. Executive summary එකක් වුවොත් abstract එකට වැඩි ටිකක් විශාලව කියන්නේ සමස්ත research එක ගැන ටිකක් logically තර්කානුකූලව ගොඩනගන ඉදිරිපත් කිරීමක් විදියට ගන්න පුළුවන්. If a research is done to investigate a real problem related to a certain process in an industry as per the request and found with some drawbacks in the existing, how can we publish the outcome? Not willing to publish. Oh, දැන් ඒක තමයි. දැන් අපි හිතමුකෝ දැන් අපි banking industry මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ අහන්නේ නන්දිකා අහනවා මේ අපි මොකක් හරි company එකක ගැන අපි research එකක් කරනවා. We are going to conduct a research on a particular business organization. We find there are certain problems in the business organization. එතකොට අපි කරන්නේ මේක publish කරන්නත් බෑ. It is unethical. It is unethical to publish. නේද? දැන් හොඳ leading company එකක් නම් ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ දුර්වලකම් අපි කියනවට කැමති නෑනේ. එතකොට අපි කරන්නේ මේක පටන් ගන්නකොටම ABC company කියලා කියනවා. අපි name කරනවා pseudonym එකක් දානවා. ඒ කියන්නේ ව්‍යාජ නමක් අපි පාවිච්චි කරනවා ABC company. හැබැයි දැන් අපි හිතන්නකො මෙහෙම අපි දැන් dialogue එක මම උදාහරණයක් ගන්නෙ. I'm just taking an example. අපි dialogue එක ගැන අරගෙන උදාහරණයක් විදිහට අපි කියනවා මේ leading telecommunication company in Sri Lanka මේ ලංකාවේ බොහොම ප්‍රසිද්ධ ජනප්‍රිය sannivedana මේ ආයතනයක් කියලා ඔන්න අපි දැන් කියනවා. හැබැයි ළමයින්ට මේක අමතක වෙලා මග හරියේදී අර කොපි කරනවානේ. එක්කෝ වෙබ්සයිට් එක කොපි කරනවා. අන්න එතකොට ඕකේ තැනක තියෙනවා ඇනුවල් රිපෝට් එකේ කොපි කරනකොට ඩයලොග් කියලා තියෙනවා. එහෙම නැත්නම් දම් රෝ කියලා තියෙනවා. එක්කෝ සිංගර් කියලා තියෙනවා. දැන් මොකද කරන්න ඕනේ? අරක එඩිට් කරන්න ඕනේ. ඒ තමන් කොපි කරන URL එක හරි වෙබ් පේජ් එක හරි එඩිට් කරන්න ඕනේ. එඩිට් කරලා ඩයලොග් කියන දැන්ට ABC කියලා දාන්න ඕනේ. එහෙම දාලා you can maintain the privacy of that campaign. ඒකින්ද කිසිම වෙලාවක if you do a research don't let the company's name to be tarnished. ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ නම කැත වෙන්න තියන්න එපා. ඒක හරි නෑ. මොකද ඒගොල්ලෝ අපිට ඒක තමයි අපි ඉස්සෙල්ලාම කම්පැනි එකත් එක්ක කතා කරලා agreement එකකට එන්නේ. Right? ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ board of directors එක්ක කතා කරලා we are going to do this kind of a research or I'm going to do this kind of a research but I will not. සමහරු කෙනා අපි we are not going to give our data to you. එතකොට you can't do the research. එහෙම අවස්ථා ඕන තරම් තියෙනවා. Can't we take a sample format for research writing? ඒක නම් පොඩ්ඩක් වෙනම කතා කරන්න ඕන දෙයක්. Right. Right. උදිත මට නම් ඇවිත් තියෙන questions එච්චරයි. Are there any other questions?
නෑ සර් අපිට දැනට ඒ participants ලගෙනුත් මට issues හරි අහන්න දේවල්
ඔව් මොන හරි තියෙනවද participants? I can answer. Right. මම ටිකක් දුන්නට වැඩිය පොඩ්ඩක් වෙලා ගත්තා. 8 minutes වගේ ගියා කමක් නැද්ද? Right. Okay. Then actually finally I thank say I thank the Dita and Madam Padma Bandaranaike for giving me this opportunity and the director, right? And the other participants, lot of participants were there, Sri Lanka and abroad. I hope I have enlivened your research journey to a certain extent. So thank you very much.
Sir, I think, yeah, and interesting presentation for you all. Now I would like to invite Mrs. Nimi Deshapriya, Assistant Director of the Research Division, to deliver her word of thanks.
Yes, Udita. Now we have come to the end of this session. I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to our resource person today, Dr. Upul Lekamge, on behalf to the National Library of Sri Lanka. Thank you, Dr. Upul Lekamge, for your informative and very valuable presentation by sharing your expertise with our researchers. And also, I would like to thank for your kind contribution as a resource person for our lecture series. I also wish to express my gratitude to our chairman of the National Library and Documentation Services Board, Professor Nanda Dharmaratne, and Director General of the NLDSB, Mr. W. Sunil, Director of National Library, Mrs. Padma Bandaranaike, for the guidance and support. Also, my special thanks goes to Research Officer, Mr. Udita Gunasekara. And also, my special and sincere thanks goes to all the participants. Thank you for your participation and valuable comments. Once again, I thank you all for your contribution. We will meet with the next program of our lecture series. As the research division of the National Library of Sri Lanka, we wish to your research journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you.